the like. So, questions for review. The end of this section, end of every section actually, and this beautiful translation has questions that really summarize the ideas. So I'd like to breathe through it with you. Number one, what is the single orientation of all the mitzvot in the Torah, as well as the verses not connected to mitzvot? V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Love your fellow as yourself. That is the absolute core of all the Torah mitzvot. It is the one overarching umbrella, and the other 612 mitzvot are in order for us to reach that exalted state of being, which is bringing us to the state of dveikut, oneness with the Creator. Number two, what difficulties does Bal HaSulam see in fulfilling the mitzvah to love the other as yourself, as seen in sections 3 and 4? The notion of I can barely fulfill my own needs. How can I fulfill others' needs? All the more so give preference to them over myself. That's a most difficult task. And in contrast, what we just read in this class of it can really only truly be done if the entire nation accepts it. Then it becomes possible. In contrast to understanding that I can barely fulfill my needs. How can I fulfill anyone else's? Most difficult. Number three, from where can a person get the energy to follow the path of selfless giving? See note 32. To imagine the other as a great person. If we really contemplated the greatness of every single individual, and to imagine that their essence is no different than one's own or any essence, because there's only one essence ever going on, and that's the Creator, that would bring us to awe. That would bring us to trepidation. To imagine that the Creator somehow, some way, is dwelling within that individual. And the truth is, we don't know their potential, so we can imagine them as being the greatest. Moshe Rabbeinu, for example, only became Moshe Rabbeinu in his 70s, 75 if I'm not mistaken. So to contemplate the possibility of any one person, it's a beautiful thing. Number four, what is the purpose of the creation, which is also the goal behind the fulfillment of the mitzvot of the Torah? See section 6. Well, there's 4 levels of spiritual consciousness as we've described. Very quickly, there's receiving to receive, which is the state of development, the state that we're born in. Then there's giving to receive, which is the state of education. We tell our children, do good acts, do this chore, be nice to people, so on and so forth. To plant the seeds and give them the characteristics so that they can continue forward and eventually come to these ideas so they can actively think about them, meditate on them, and reach these desired states of consciousness. Then there's giving to give, which is already considered pure spirituality. Not to say that one does not have the will to receive. The will to receive is consistent throughout all levels, because that's reality. Outside of the Creator, who has no will to receive, is the will to receive. So will to receive is really all of reality. Creation in itself is the will to receive. It's the novelty, it's the chiddush, it's the new thing that came into existence because it didn't exist within the Creator. So giving to give is already the state of righteousness. That's what we call it tzaddik. And then there's the highest level of a tzaddik, which is receiving in order to give, which we use examples like Shabbat. We enjoy, we eat good food, we are receiving the goodness in order to give to the other. We go to our friend's home or our parents, and they provide food for us. And we receive the food in order to give to them because they want to give to us. More than the calf wants to suckle, the mother wants to nurse. So a great rabbi with great wisdom, or a father with great wisdom for that matter, wants to bestow what they know and the tools that they have to the student, to the son, to the daughter. And this can only be done if they have fitting vessels, if they can receive it. So for us to also work on ourselves and the notion that the Creator wants us to receive incomprehensible abundance is a beautiful thing, let alone those close to us, whether our rabbis, our spiritual leaders and mentors, family, friends, so on and so forth. So again, just to clarify, because we went on this digression to explain the levels, what is the purpose of the creation, which is also the goal behind the fulfillment of the Torah and Mitzvot? Receiving in order to give is the highest level, and that is regarded the Matarat Bria, the purpose of the creation. Torah and Mitzvot brings us there, because Hashem gave us lots of Torah and Mitzvot in order to refine us, as brought by Rabbi Hanania ben Akasha. In the beginning of the Peticha, we've also mentioned it in prior classes. Number 5, the smallest measure of God's revelation contains more joy than all the pleasures of this world, called a nehiru dakik, tiny, tiny bit of pleasure. So why do we need the pleasures of this world? The machine that is a human needs the fuel of pleasure. God forbid anyone is ever in the state of mind or the state of being, but those who are depressed and, God forbid, take their lives, don't imagine that there's any pleasure to life. They can't imagine or meditate on receiving any pleasure in the future, let alone the present. So the only pleasure for them is, God forbid, taking away the suffering. Pleasure is our fuel. If we didn't have it behind any action, then we wouldn't do it, which is where we employ Emunah in our inner work, to contemplate and understand that if I'm doing something specifically when I don't taste anything, when it doesn't feel good, or if I don't want to, that's the opportunity to say, but it's for the best. It's for my refinement, it's for the other, so on and so forth. That's above das, that's above our knowledge, it's above our logic to say, I'm going to do something with no reward. I'm going to do something that I don't want to do, or really detest doing, if anything. That's the work. It's the resistance and working with it. Number 6, what is the greatest wonder of creation? See note 43. Lowly creatures of flesh and blood like ourselves can connect to a creator that is willing all of existence into being at every microsecond. Beating our hearts, breathing our breaths. Every single detail, from world wars to a leaf falling on the ground. Everything. And this incomprehensible creator gave us Torah and Mitzvot in order to build a relationship with us. Wants to connect to us, wants us to connect to him, wants to give goodness to us. And we can't. That's the greatest wonder ever. Number 7, what is the idea of devekut, cleaving to God? See note 44. Simple language, the Baal Sulam says, similarity of form. If your character is like the Creator, you're attached to the Creator. Meaning, if you're giving, if you're loving, compassionate, so on and so forth, you have some relative level of devekus, some level of adhesion, because in spirituality, there's no place, there's no forms, there's just principles. It's esoteric. So it's a matter of character. It's a matter of state of being. It's consciousness. Number 8, what is the significance of our spiritual work? Can work in the fleeting world entitle one to eternal joy? See note 48. Yes, of course. Our inheritance is eternal joy. It's a wonder. It's a pella. To contemplate our 120 years of life relative to eternity, it's nothing. It's a microsecond of time, if I could even say that. to work, actually like be employed for a microsecond to earn eternity, makes no sense. It's Pella. It's absolute wonder. But that's the supernal chesed. That's the supernal loving kindness from the Creator. Number 9. Why do some things give us joy and pleasure, and regarding other things we feel pain and affliction? See note 50. Anything that's aligned with the Creator gives us pleasure. Anything that causes disalignment causes us suffering. One can say, but there's so many people in the world who experience seemingly great pleasures and do things that are, based on what we're speaking about here, absolutely opposite or anti to the Creator. One can make that observation, but the truth is the suffering comes quite quickly relative to the Nehiru Dekik, the tiny, tiny bit of pleasure that they're experiencing from whatever they're doing, relative to the true spiritual pleasures of having connection to eternity, connection to the Creator. Taste and see that God is good. Number 10. Why are we required to observe all the details of the mitzvot? See note 57. All mitzvot have exact spiritual roots, none of which are incidental or insignificant. They all purify our soul. And those who brought down the principles and brought down the laws to us in the body of halacha, Jewish law, understandably so, tasted this quite tangibly and brought them down from the spiritual roots and levels and actualized them in everyday occurrences, like saying a blessing on food or drink and the like, which is infinitely deep. It's amazing. Everything is amazing. Wow. Okay, number 11. How can the Torah obligate us to do the impossible? See section 16. Just talked about it. Because we can achieve seemingly impossible things when everyone takes on the yoke of the same purpose. Being coming to Devekus, coming to adhesion with the Creator. Spoken about very early on in the series. I recommend reviewing that the notion of a true society is one that's rooted in truth. And the truth that we speak of here is Torah and Mitzvot. A society cannot function and be consistent and survive without being nourished by the life of our lives. It's quite logical when you get into this type of learning. And that's why, relatively speaking, every society that has had a lack thereof has fallen and broken. So it could be a bitter idea, but I've heard many times from the Rebbe Shlita in the past year, year and a half with Corona and this very interesting world we're living in. You can't build something new on a broken foundation. So in a way, things have to fall. Things have to crumble. We do our best to do Torah mitzvah. We do our best to connect to each other and build strong communities. We do what we can. We do everything in our strength that we can do in quality and quantity. But there's a lot written in our tradition regarding the times and their challenges as we approach the correction of all history and time, the Gemar Tikkun, the finale of creation, the complete correction. It's most difficult, most coarse, and all the more so we need to connect to the Torah and Mitzvot in order to draw from it strength and light and refinement, and to also receive strength and love and inspiration from our friends, families, and communities, rabbis, so on and so forth. In order to give, we want to receive this strength, as we talked about, fulfill the purpose of creation, in order that we can further reach our personal intended purpose and potential. And then hopefully, if we get there, not only can we help people along the way, but if we reach that state, we can also truly help others rise up to exalted states of being. Finally, number 12. Why wasn't the Torah given to the patriarchs? They were too small. We needed a full nation to actualize the Torah's desired influence, being to refine ourselves on an individual and communal level. We need a nation in order to employ the necessary step towards loving the other, being the mutual guarantee. The notion that we need the whole nation and everyone's responsible for each other is arvut in Hebrew, the mutual guarantee. And we just spent this entire series of Matan Torah talking about how to come and what is the state of loving the other and its dynamics and details. And now we've clarified that it can only be done with a community. It can only be done with others. And now we're going to continue into the next essay, the continuation of Matan Torah called Arvut, the mutual guarantee, and go further, deeper, stronger into the dynamics of reaching these exalted levels and what they entail for us on a micro and macro level. Tov, thank you so much for tuning in to this series of Matan Torah. It's really been an amazing pleasure to be learning with you. And for those who have reached out to me along the way and have made connections with me, it's really a great merit and a great honor for me to connect to any one of you. And I feel very blessed to have connected, and hopefully we'll continue to be connected and grow together in whatever shape or form, hopefully until we reach Yashar Kel, Yisrael. Whether physically, as the land is waiting for everyone, but more importantly, spiritually. All the best.